Hi, welcome to the Mohua show. My name is Mohua Chinappa and I am an author, entrepreneur and ex-housewife. This podcast is about everything from business to technology to arts to lifestyle, but done and spoken ईमानदारी से. Hi, for today's episode we have Prabhu. Prabhu is a single dad who single-handedly is raising his son. He says his parents earnestly longed for a daughter, but had him instead. So during his teenage years, he used to coax his mother to adopt a baby girl, but they couldn't do so. So he fulfilled his own dream by adopting a boy and who he lovingly calls Aarav. Welcome, Prabhu, in today's episode.
Hi, Mohua.
So we live in a world that idolizes pairs and it's very courageous to venture out and choose to be a single parent, So what's your idea of a perfect family?
I don't think there's any concept of a perfect family. We are used to a man, woman, children. That's the concept we are exposed to since childhood. I think a perfect family is how you raise your children, and you could be a single parent, a single mother, a single father, and it could be just that. I've seen children raised in conventional homes and they're raised badly. So I think it's how you deal with that.
And also, I think I kind of agree with you because, with a lot of the whole concept of an ideal family, you have the father, the mother, and the child, or two children, or three children. And invariably, the father is all the time in most homes absent because they are pursuing a career, or the mother is pursuing a career and the children are left with house help or with the grandparents. So this whole concept of family has obviously really, really changed, They idolize the perfect mother and no child can grow up healthy emotionally without the mother, because it's just a society has, carved this whole concept that single fathers cannot do what a mother, can be the caregiver for a family. So do you think that, this is a myth and most men are viewed as the financial support and the nurturer is the woman? And we've been fed this forever. So
being a single parent for the last 6 years and 2 months, I can tell you for a fact, I try my best. Definitely try my best, but no single man can do what a woman can do.
Why would you say that?
That's a given. I mean, it's just how we are raised, and it's how our mindset is. It'll take another generation or two to bring in that balance. It's not there yet, especially with Indian men. It's not there at all. Even though my dad was he was not the kind like, this is a boy's job or this is a girl's job. It was never like that. We were raised, I was raised in a home, myself, my brothers and all, we were raised where we changed the sheets, we swept the house and we cleaned the toilet. And in those days, this is 45 plus years ago, we had that stone to grind your idli batter and all that. So we took turns doing that. There was no such thing as your cooking is your mom's job and sweeping is your mom's job and you boys have to do boy things or something. We were never raised like that. So I've always been, for me, when I see children raised like that, I'm like, who are these people? I don't get this whole boy girl thing. I don't see that it's, but coming back to your question, I think the way a woman raises a child, and I speak for 99%. I mean, there's always that 1% who don't live up to, but that's unfortunate. But a man can try his best. I try I'm earning a living. I'm still with him. I cook for him, and I used to pick him up from class and things like that. So I've done all of that. I've done a father's job and a mother's job, and since he was a baby, he slept in my lap, which is what a mother does, So I've taken on both responsibilities, but I still believe no man can match up to the stamina of a woman when she's a mother, because she becomes a superwoman. I mean, I've seen my mother, 4 boys. I have tough days with one child. I mean, imagine my mother pull it off 4 times. It's definitely not easy, but it's a start. We can pull it off because you need to have you need to be surrounded by strong women. See, end of the day, today, if you're whatever your personality is, however it has developed, a lot of the credit goes to your mother. So if people say mama's boy or whatever, I don't take it. I'm not offended by it. I take it as a compliment. You can call me whatever. Those names don't bother me. My son is growing up exactly like that. Like my best friend is his mother. That's what he calls her. And he's got my son has got multiple mothers. My sister-in-law is his mother, and then his grandmother is his mother and grandmother. So he is cool about it, and
Has he ever asked you any questions? Because, when he goes into school, he'd probably be meeting a whole lot of other children, with the father mother concept. And has Arav ever asked you these questions?
I told him last week that he's adopted.
Okay. And
This,
how was
this
his
I want to tell
response?
you in person when we meet. So I told him last week. So this was in the morning, and we woke up, had breakfast, and everything. Then I was bathing him, and so it was a very nice morning. It was the weather has been great, and he was in good mood, and all that. Nobody was yelling and screaming at each other. So I told him, I started telling him how and what, and he already knows where he came from. So, like which city he was brought home from. He's not from Bangalore. He knows that. And I had taken him to that city as well when the orphanage was celebrating their 25th anniversary. So, took him there. So, he was on stage. He was 4 years old then. So, he was on stage. He got to meet so many people. He was old enough to understand what was going on. He got to meet a lot of other children like him and older children who were like 22, 24 and all that. They were giving a speech on the stage and all that. So he got to see all of that. So now whenever somebody asks him like, where are you from? I'm from that city. Or he's like, it's a matter of fact. Then last week I told him, I said, I explained the word to him, adopted, and what it means. And so he kept saying, oh, I thought I came out of, he thought he came out of my friend's tummy, who's his mother, right? So I said, no, we brought you home. You didn't come out of her tummy, unlike my other friends, kids, and all that, whom he knows. So that was the reference given. So I said, we brought you home when you were 4 months old. And then I told him that some nice people in the orphanage were taking care of you, and, that's what they do, And then he said, I was waiting for you to come take me home.
Oh, God.
I was blown by that. I was like, a 6-year-old, where does he come? Where did that come from?
Oh, my God. You make me cry when I
Yeah.
hear
And
this.
then this was in the morning, post breakfast. Then I was sitting at the dining table having my lunch after a few hours. And he was watching TV and he asked me, can I watch TV and have lunch? I said, okay, fine. So he could see me from there. And he was having lunch, and the TV was at a decent volume where I could hear what was going on. Then he pauses it, and then he calls me out, and he tells me. So I asked him, "What is it? What do you want?" So he said, "Thank you for being my father." That was on the same day. And whenever he expresses his love, and I am incredibly guilty of this, he always initiates it. Like for every 10 times he tells me I love you, 9 times he said it first. It's that one time I've said it first.
How wonderful. So, Prabhu, I need to come back to, I have to delve a little more deeper into the human being that you are. Why would you take the decision of becoming a single father? Is it because you don't believe that two people together can raise a child? And, because it is unconventional thinking, and unconventional thinking invariably happens when you've seen situations around you, or you've come to an understanding of yourself as a human being. So, let's just go back into the past, into this whole decision that you took to become a single dad.
There are several reasons, obviously. One was I used to tell my mom to adopt, which she didn't. I totally agree with her in hindsight. After 4 children, I think you're done with whatever responsibilities. I was just greedy. I wanted a sister, but that didn't happen. But that stayed in my mind. So as I was growing up, this was when I was 15, 16, I used to tell her. And everybody was like, stupid teenager, like, what? He's talking nonsense. Nobody took me seriously. As I grew older, it stayed in my mind, because even at 16, I was as serious, but nobody took me seriously. As I grew older, I had planned on doing that. I mean, I lived abroad and all that. So the plan was to adopt wherever I'm living. So wherever it's easiest. But I never got around to doing that, because, you start working, you start earning, you start investing money, and you keep setting new goals for yourself. You want to buy a new house, you know, a new car, or you get distracted with all these material things that everything else takes a backseat. But this never left my mind, and getting married was never an option, obviously. So I was totally happy being single, living my life the way. And my dad passed away very early on. It was my mom. My dad passed away when I was 17. So I hardly got to know him in my uh, older formative years, like when you actually develop a personality and all. I never got to know him enough then. It was always my mom. And she never, I think in all the years she was around, she asked me twice, don't you want to marry? I'm like, no, I don't want to marry. I'm happy the way I'm. Okay, fine. It's no emotional blackmail, no nonsense. I used to tell her repeatedly that I'm going to adopt eventually. And unfortunately, she never got to see my son. She passed away before that. But I wish she was around to see that. But that stayed around in my mind. I always knew that I will come back to India. I will adopt. I was only waiting for the law to change. So that day the law changed, it changed in 2015, September 1st. I had applied on September 3rd, 2015. So I didn't even waste any time. The website was not working for the first 2 days, so not my fault there. But I was one of the first few people to do this. My only disappointment is the numbers have been plummeting every year instead of going up, which is so disappointing. People worked so hard to fight this in Supreme Court and make it okay for single men to adopt, not just single women. And then nothing happened after that.
What would you attribute that to, actually, Prabhu?
I think one, there's no awareness. So a lot of people who have contacted me after knowing, they're like, oh, I heard it is so complicated, it's so difficult, and a lot of negativity has surrounded this whole process, which is so wrong. It is not like that. But at the same time, you need to be fully prepared. And I'm not talking about financial aspect of it, but emotional and physical aspect of it, because it can be draining. It takes a lot of effort. But then what happens is it becomes second nature. It's like when you learn to drive the first time, you're like, oh, there's a vehicle coming from here or from there, and I have to look at the signal, I have to change the gear, I have to do this. After a point, it becomes second nature. You get in your car, you wear your seatbelt, and it's just like, oh, I know what to do. So the first few days or a month or two or whatever, it's always going to be difficult because somebody's handed you a human child. You get to keep that child, and there's no return policy. You can, but one should not, obviously. You shouldn't.
Return policy,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
you
Quite.
can't step into it with that mindset. No, let me try for a few months. If it doesn't work out, I'll take him or her back. That is.
Yes.
You don't go in with that mindset at all. You have to be fully prepared. Like you need to have enough people in your life to fall back on.
You're talking about a support structure around you, right? So it's, I will again also ask you about this question in schools, okay? Because having been a mother myself, we've had school groups of mothers, right? The WhatsApp group has been only mothers. There has never been a WhatsApp fathers group in which, we've discussed. In fact, today in the evening, I'm meeting a mother whose, whose son and my son studied together. And was that difficult for you? Because, to not to stick out like a sore thumb, maybe in some occasions. Of course, Aarav is very young right now, but have you looked ahead, because now there'll be exams and there's going to be tuitions. There will be so many other issues that generally we as mothers in the group we discussed. So do you feel left out in that?
So he went to a Montessori nearby for 2 years. And this is the negative of this. People shouldn't think everything is rosy, by the way. But that should also not discourage you from taking this decision. So the negative of it was when I used to drop him off, 90% it used to be mothers near the gate, and which is understandable. I get that. Sometimes the dad would drop the kid off in the car and go to the office or whatever. And most people would say hi. But as time went by, because he was there for 2 years, some 3-4 months, 6 months into school, I figured out that there were groups. like 4 or 5 mothers or whatever, like their kids would play on weekends, or they had play dates or go out or whatever, take them to McDonald's or some whatever, they liked. So Aarav was never a part of any of this. He was only friends with another kid who used to live 2 buildings away from us. So we used to go together in my car every morning. So that girl, her mother, Aarav and myself, and then afternoon I would pick them up in my car, and that ended when school ended. So we've never spoken after that. That lady and her kid. Aarav still misses her, but they are not in touch. So I sort of gave up because I didn't want to chase people if they don't want to keep in touch. I mean, I'm not going to force myself on you. But it's inevitable. You can't help it. It's. I wish people were more like. I would get judgmental looks like, why is the dad coming every day, or but I had told the school already that I know the school because my friend's daughter studied there and I know the teachers, so I had told them openly, adopted and all that. So don't worry, we will make sure that he's not bothered or anything like that. Obviously other parents found out, but they always wondered why I'm single and what is going on and all that. I don't think people, unless you become friends with me, have a right to know what is going on. You can sit and speculate all the rubbish and nonsense you want to. I mean, or you can just come and ask me. That's also easy, but people choose not to go that path, but I don't, it never affected him, honestly. It bothered me a little bit, but not him.
How wonderful. I think that's the resilience of children,
Yeah.
because the world that you expose them to is the world that they will see. And, it goes back to that first topic that you spoke about, that, strong mothers also raise strong men and
Yeah.
strong boys, but I just wanted to ask you and talk to you about, Supriya Sule brought the bill to legalize same-sex marriage in India, in the second budget season, right? Session. So why do you think it's taking so long for India to bring in this much needed reform in the policies? So what do you think about this? Is it because of society?
Whether we like it or not, we are a very regressive society. Anything that, even including single parent, which is a foreign concept from those other people's perspective, they're like, I'll give you an example. When Aarav was 6 months old, so for the first year and a half, I didn't work. I just stayed home. Like, I would take breaks once a week. My friend would give me a break and all that, so that I can sleep through the night, because he was being fed every 3 hours and things like that, which is normal. I mean, this is a baby. So my opposite my apartment, not in my apartment, there was a family living there with teenage boys. And the mother, she stopped my maid near the gate one morning, and she asked her, how come he has a child? So she said, oh, he's adopted. Because I was always home. My car was always parked. I was not going anywhere and all that. So how come he has a child? He's adopted. So, oh, somebody just handed him a baby, is it? How come? Why does he want a baby? That is the mindset people have. They don't see it from a perspective, such a nice thing, Somebody thought of that. More people should do that. That is not our mindset. This is our mindset. What people like you and I think, we are not even 1%.
How do you negotiate this, Prabhu? Because it must be difficult on you emotionally.
My support system, it's like, I'm touched wood, it's like amazing, My support system is like brilliant. I mean, everybody's there. If I just call either my brother, sister-in-law, my close friends, or whoever, they will show up in 20 minutes. And we all are within 1.5 kilometers. And that was by design. We all live near each other intentionally. That's the plan. Because, you can't move from neighborhood to neighborhood or city to city trying to find that comfort zone. You just have to create it.
For all our listeners right now, I want you to hear Prabhu repeat the word that you need to create your comfort zone. And often, so many of us, we think that if you're going through a divorce, you're going through a breakup, and you're going through a huge challenge in your life, we feel that maybe if you shift cities and things will work out, which is not true. It's about finding the comfort in the place that you're in.
Correct.
But coming back to the fact that, being a parent is a tough one, right? Our life just completely goes awry. Okay. I mean, your schedules change, your socializing changes. You can't go out, that much like the way you did in the past as a young person. And, you suddenly are accountable, to not leave your child behind. The responsibility, which of course Indian parenting, most men lack that. And I find them, and I'm going on, on the show while saying that there's a very small number of same-sex marriages where the man takes on the entire responsibility apart from the financial part. So in your life, Prabhu, what are the kind of changes that you felt that maybe you would like to put back on track after Aarav grows up? Is there anything of that sort? Because he will grow up and he will move on. He will have a life of his own.
I plan on retire. See, my original plan was to retire by 40. But then Aarav came into my life at 43 and a half. And then my new chapter began. I mean, I have to focus on earning money. Until then, I was fine with earning less as well because I'm not a greedy person. I was content with what I had in my life. But then this change happened, and for the better, obviously. And I have to, my professional life started again. But then by the time he turns 18, I'm definitely retiring. So I have another 12 years to be financially solid. I mean, I was there already, but then, yeah, you bring another life into your life and things change.
Coming back to the last question, in this episode, and you're a very, very special guest for me. We've only spoken about fathers in marriages that have got a mother and a father, and the usual idea of a family concept that we have. And, people like you are the change makers actually in society. And that's the reason you're here on the Mohua show, because we've had some amazing guests just like you who've dared to think different. And I think single fathers is a very small number, but yes, it is rising in world over. Single parenting, of course, but they're mostly our mothers, very few fathers. But of course, we see the world changing because gender roles are changing. People are viewing things differently. Just before we end this episode, I would want you to advise some of the single fathers who are going to be listening to you right now. What is it that you'd like to tell them that when a child is unwell, when a child is going through some sort of a emotional crisis, because you've been long in this now, and it was a very conscious decision. The more I speak, the more I understand. Would you like to say some words, because sometimes people are also single, not out of choice because their spouse has
Yes.
passed away. Sometimes it's a divorce. Sometimes it is a very nasty divorce. And sometimes the mother is just left and walked out, and there are stories like this.
I think single fathers need to be more patient because patience doesn't come very easy to men as it does to women. And we definitely need to be more creative. I think the whole thing is not to give up. When you feel things are getting tough and you're having difficulty managing your child for whatever reason, whether it is a lot of work you're dealing with in your own life and then the child is being difficult or unwell or anything, patience is key, and don't lose your temper, which I need to have a grip on. But yeah, easier said than done. But yeah, when a child comes into your life, you realize whatever you have learned, whatever you think of yourself, a lot of it becomes very irrelevant because they teach you a whole new meaning of what you thought was right wasn't exactly right. There's a new right now. The things you learn is mind boggling from a child. And we should never underestimate children that, oh, you're small and what would you know? The wisdom that comes out of a child is way beyond all our years of experience. It's not the same. It's far more elevated and clearer. There's a lot of clarity which we don't have. We think we know, but we don't.
So it's so courageous of you to take on, the role of being a single father. But globally, it turns out that over 8 of every 10 lone parent households are headed by women. Based on data from 89 countries, this translates to 101.3 million households where lone mothers live alone with their children. Many other single mothers live with their children in extended households. Okay, according to a study by the University of Toronto done in 2016, of the world's 2.3 billion children, 14% are growing up in a single parent household. In the US alone, fathers make for 4% of the total single parent households, which shows in the US 2015 census report, India is far, far behind. But according to the head of a city school affiliated to CBSE, around 7 or 8 years ago, the number of children with single parents was only 1% to 2% of the new admissions, which now stands at 15% to 20%. So, yes, we are changing as a society. There are
Wow.
320 billion children worldwide between 0 to 17 years of age living with single parents, mostly headed by single mothers, and near about 2.3 billion children are living in India where they're also being raised by single fathers too. And the data is not yet fully clear, but yes, the world is shifting, and we have many more single fathers who would love to hear this episode today with Prabhu. And we wish Prabhu all the best and lots of love to Aarav. And thank you so much for being on today's episode.
Thank you so much.
To you, our dearest listeners, you can find us on your favorite streaming services, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and of course on all other major streaming services. With loads of love, we are The Mohua Show, where we talk ईमानदारी से.